The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Geneva, your host every week right here, and it's at 10 o'clock. It's on Saturday, as you know, because you're listening to it, but also the prior shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com, and I think there's like 350 of them now because we've been on the air since 2019. Now, one of the first guests I've had on the show, and this is I don't know, a perennial guest, or, you know, I never could understand. It's like plants. There's annuals and perennials. I have no idea which is which, but I have a frequent guest on my show, and his name is Jim VanBrederode, and I will tell you his resume in short is he has had a long and storied career in the police department. Worked at the Rochester Police Department, right? As first,
yes, I did. Yep.
Became the Police Cheif in Gates.
I did.
Retired from that. And back when he was the president of the Monroe County Police Chiefs Association. So anytime you saw somebody on TV that needed to get interviewed about anything having to do with law enforcement, he was the guy.
Yes.
All the time. Yeah, all the time. And then he ran for Senate, which he just told me, I'm not doing that again.
Monroe County is pretty obvious. It's a Democrat community. And, one thing I learned is people don't vote on issues; they vote on party line, and I concede to it. You know what I mean? It is what it is, and but unfortunately, the rest of us have to live in this world.
Yeah, we had a conversation before the show. We've become very good friends, and we had a conversation with the show. I go, "Oh, let's talk about your Senate run," and he, nah, I don't think so. Well, you know, you do. You have you know, in some communities you have a machine behind you. We were just showing. I was just showing Jim a picture of my dad and my mom with Ronald Reagan back in the day. This is when he was first running for office. And my dad was very involved, I'll tell you, as a Republican in Nassau County. And Nassau County was Republican. And my dad was on the good side of everything when the Republicans were in power. And then when the Democrats got in power, we weren't as well liked, paid attention to, or whatever. So that's how politics work.
But you know what? Things have really changed, though, since your dad. Right?
Okay.
There wasn't much difference between Democrats and Republicans. I think at the end of the day, we all agreed we want safe communities, right?
Yeah.
Things have to be earned and not just handed out. But what's different today is it's gone off the rails, right? We have far left, far right, and things are just so far apart from each other. Unlike the days, look, my parents grew up as Democrats, you know, and but they would never have agreed with half the stuff that's going on right now. Some of these policies, the ideology of the Democratic Party. So I think things have really changed in those days where I think we were all a little more equal to each. You know, we had a few differences, but not like today. Today is like night and day, and you know what? When I run for office, it's not about Republican, Democrat. I look at common sense and what do we want in our communities? Do we want stolen cars every day? Do we want high taxes? Do we want potholes? Do we want safe schools that succeed, right? Mm-hmm. It's just about common sense. This is what we all want. But then you look at the strategies on the left are just off the wall. You know, these conversations over books in schools. I mean, we can go on and on about the issues. It's like, how did we get so far apart from each other?
Well, and you're right about that, because back in the day, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill would sit down and have a scotch with each other, right? And this last, so I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I got to be honest with you. I have issues with everybody, but you know, you have the State of the Union, and Nancy Pelosi rips up the
speech,
the Trump speech in front of him. You know, you wouldn't have Tip O'Neill do that to Ronald Reagan.
The lack of respect today is just unbelievable. How we how public officials treat each other. It's embarrassing. And my parents, your parents, there's no way any of this would have happened like this. And it's amazing how bad things are. And I sit back, and now I'm retired, and I grieve when I see what's going on to families, when I see people dying of the drug overdoses, and I see the stolen cars and the kids that are doing it getting killed and hung up on bad stuff. I spent 37 years making sure our communities were safe, and I watch what's going on, and I just shake my head. Why are we not holding these kids in custody? Open up the shelter. Why are we not putting bad people in jail, right? I mean, come on. It's just common sense. Forget Republican, Democrat. It's just common sense. I don't want my family to be victimized. I don't want my loved ones to be carjacked. I don't want my loved ones to get fentanyl. I mean, we all got the same dreams. We all want to be successful, but I'm not sure how we got to the point of, all this crazy stuff and this immigration stuff, right? The illegal aliens, how in the world did we ever get to this point? But that's a whole different story. What we're going to get into shortly.
Well, yeah, we have a couple more minutes left in the segment, so let's just start touching on that because, nobody wants illegal immigrants, what they want to call them, if that's a nasty thing to say, illegal immigrants rather than undocumented, whatever, that do commit crimes. You do not want them. You don't want them in the country, right? And now that how many have been let in? I mean, now how do you do this? I mean, after all this has happened so far, I mean, in a humane way.
Well, there's no pretty way of doing it. It wasn't pretty when they all came in, okay? Right. There's nothing pretty seeing people clinging onto the side of a train, okay, which we know you could run over and killed at any moment. The way this all happened was not pretty, and fixing it is not pretty. But I can tell you one thing, okay? I grew up in the town of Gates. I live in the town of Gates. It is a highly Italian immigrant community, right? When you talk to my residents and you hear the stories of how they came here legally, had to have a sponsor, had to have a job lined up, and they're all very successful today. Most of these immigrants in Gates, they all have businesses. They became plumbers, they became electricians. They took on jobs that nobody else wanted, but they have a very successful life. So, and then for them to sit back and watch what's going on, I mean, it's just mind-boggling, right? Because that's not how America was built. We didn't build it with open borders and coming in by the thousands. Remember those nightly newscasts showing thousands of people heading for the border and just coming on in, and you're like, my gosh, who's here? Do we even know who's coming into our country after 9/11? What are we doing?
Right. Well, and I was reading an article in the New York Times of all places, and they were saying like Astoria, Queens, which is highly Democrat, is starting to switch a little bit more Republican now, because what's happening is that the immigrants are coming in and they don't have licenses for certain businesses, and they're establishing a culture in the neighborhood with to be frank with you, there massage parlors and stuff like that. They're changing the neighborhood, and the people that have been here that have come legally, they're not for this either.
No, and they came here lawfully, right? And they're very proud to be Americans. That they're proud that they were allowed in here. But there were expectations before you came, right? We didn't just say come over here. There were expectations. There were requirements that you had to meet, and you had skin in the game. And now for those people to see what's going on, they're absolutely appalled.
Well, I have to laugh. It really is laughable, because you hear people say, "Give me you're tired, you're yearning to be free," and whatever. It's a poem. It's a poem on the Statue of Liberty. It is not in the Constitution. It is not in our laws. You give me your yearning to be free, people. Yes, I got that. It's a poem. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And with that little piece of trivia and nonsense, we are heading into a break, and we're going to be talking more to Jim after the break. This is Don for my friend Todd, who owns Martinizing Dry Cleaning in Fairport. like I like to say to you, he picks your clothes up and he drops your clothes off. Why schlep them yourself? I love the word schlep. You can save your time and your effort and your gas and do other things rather than take your clothes back and forth. They do a great job. Their number is 425-4242, 425-4242. Use them. I do all the time. This is Dom Geneva for my friends at Metro Mattress. Sometimes things actually get better. Your cell phone, TV, and car is better than 30 years ago. More choices too. So when Nita and I needed a new mattress, we wanted to shop local, but we also wanted the advantages of having lots of choices with new features, so we went to Metro Mattress. Based in Syracuse, they have 7 stores locally. Many of their mattresses are made in the United States, and many have 10-year warranties. Go to Metro Mattress like Nita and I did. You'll be happy. Well, welcome back. We are having a great conversation with a good friend of mine, Jim VanBrederode, former police officer, police chief, president of the Monroe County Police Chiefs Association. And he, like I said, he's a no-nonsense sort of guy. So explain to me in technical terms what a sanctuary city is.
So a sanctuary city is not a legal term. It is a policy that a local government would adapt, restricting their cooperation with federal immigration and enforcement, federal enforcements. So it's them passing their own policy saying that we are not going to help enforce these federal laws, okay?
Okay, so I'm going to be like a lawyer here, okay? Not that I raise lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, okay? So what they're saying is that they are going to pick and choose the laws that they're going to enforce that are dictated by people that are above them. Like they're going to say there's a federal law, and I don't like this federal law, so I'm not going to enforce this. I'm not going to enforce or support this federal law, and it's counterproductive to the federal law getting done.
And we're going to pull any resources to make sure none of our resources go to help them. And that's what the issue was that brought Tom Homan to Rochester.
So you as a police chief could say, burglaries are okay, and I'm just not going to enforce the law for burglaries. I mean, you could just do that, right?
Right. But then we morally don't do that. And we're injecting our personal opinions and politics over the public safety of our community. And that's where we're wrong. And look, I have all the respect for the mayor. I have all the respect for Chief Smith. I wouldn't want their job. However, I got to believe that press conference was a total disaster. They should not have done that.
Okay. So people, not everybody may be aware of what you're talking about. So let's talk about this incident. It was a few weeks ago, and there was I'm going to tell you what I know, or I think I know about this. There were a van of 8 individuals or so, and ICE is there. And they confront these people because they want to, apparently there's a person or two of interest to them or whatever. And they call for backup, right?
Backup and routine. Hey, they called 911. They needed guns and badges there to keep the peace. It was a peacekeeping mission. They were outnumbered. They called 911, just like any citizen would call 911 from a store, right? You have a right to call 911, even if you're a federal law enforcement agency. You can call 911 because I'm detecting there's a problem here. We're about to get beat up or whatever the situation is, okay? They called 911, a routine call that we go on, cops, every day. We back up all different agencies. The tax department, right? We don't like paying our taxes. But they have an enforcement section within the tax department, and they do go around from time to time, and they will seize a store, close it down, for that store not paying their sales tax. They go in, they seize the cash register, they seize any assets that are in the safe, and they literally close it down. But they will call local law enforcement, the uniforms, to come help them and to be there to keep the peace, to make sure nothing goes wrong. We do this every day. We get calls from all these different agencies. I don't know what their laws are. I don't even know what half this stuff is as a policeman, but I don't need to, okay? If somebody calls, we're going to go, just like a landlord-tenant dispute, right? It's getting really hot and heavy. They call the police to keep the peace. I'm not here to say who stays and who goes, but we are there to keep the peace. And that's exactly what happened when ICE called 911 and asked for local law enforcement to come help them.
Well, if you look at all the, I think people need to take a look at how many different agencies there are. I mean, you have the FBI, you have the IRS. Tobacco and firearms. You have, believe it or not, a lot of people don't think about this, but the post office, the
postal police,
postal police. I mean, that's how they caught the Unabomber. So there's all these other agencies, and at any point in time, they could be calling you, asking you for backup. So they're not asking you to make arrests. They're asking you to be there to stabilize the situation.
Exactly.
So how did this get out of hand? Or is it just did it just get politically whatever?
It became politically this isn't what we want our police doing. I didn't see where they did anything wrong. They got there. We neutralized the situation like we do any other call that's getting a little intense. We detain people. We put them in cars. We handcuff them maybe. We're just there to keep the peace, right? And then to sort out what's going on. It's the first thing we do.
So what were they supposed to do? You're supposed to call for the backup, and they're going to say, "Oh no, that's not our job. We don't do that," and just let them swing in the wind. I mean, what do you do? I mean, like you said, when you call 911, okay, somebody comes and they don't say, "Well, you're across the street from us, and we're not going to do that," and we don't think you're whatever. I mean, you don't get a chance to refuse that, really, right?
Well, this is where policies come in place within the city of Rochester. They have, I don't know what their policy is. I've never read it. But when I was the police chief in Gates, we didn't have a policy restricting our officers on who they could help or not help. They would absolutely go and help and then sort it all out. So what they're alleging, from what I understood, is this was a violation of their policy, that the policy that they wrote, and again, I haven't read it, and it's all based on their idea of we are a sanctuary city, right? We are not going to help. And it's really insulting because, here in Monroe County, we all work together, okay? Mm-hmm. When I was a policeman on the road, okay, I'd run somebody's name. Maybe I arrest them for DWI. I run their name, and it would say that person has a warrant out of the city of Rochester for a stolen car. You know what I would do? I legally, because I would hold that individual. I would call the city of Rochester, say, "Hey, I've got Dom Geneva here, and he has a warrant out of your agency, and I'm going to hold him until you come over and get me. Or I tell you what, I'll even come halfway. I'll meet you somewhere and turn the prisoner over." We do this all the time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, public safety is a team effort. It's just not one agency or another agency. And the other thing, which is amazing, when the mayor got up there and did this press conference, do you realize that the city of Rochester prides itself that they use the U.S. Attorney's Office, a federal district attorney's office, right? U.S. attorney, to prosecute their gun cases because they know a gun case in the state of New York criminal justice system will result in nothing. So they prosecute gun cases through the U.S. Attorney's Office. They want the federal statutes to get more bite, to get more accountability to these people that are toting guns. So to get up there and throw another agency under the bus like this, while you're the same mayor who's touting how great the feds are for coming in here and Project Exile, right? That's the team term that they use when we prosecute gun cases. We take them to the federal court. Why? Because we can get more time served. We can get more accountability versus the state court, right? Which is run by the Democrats, right? They have totally watered down the criminal justice system. So you can't have it both ways, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to sit here and criticize ICE, but then you're the same city that wants the feds to use the federal criminal justice system to take the guns off your street.
Then there's the case of the judge who I think she was in the Midwestern place. I think it was Milwaukee, where there was a fella in her courtroom for something that was I think it was a domestic violence deal, and he was undocumented, and ICE was there to arrest him, and she made the decision that she was going to adjourn the case, let the guy go out the back door, and they had to go chase him and grab the guy. So so she's deciding what law she's going to enforce and which ones she's not going to enforce. I guess she just got indicted, for that thing. But I mean, that sounds like just. I mean, things are just falling apart.
Like people are getting so passionate that they forget what their oath of office was, right? I mean, we all took an oath of office, whether you're a judge, a policeman, that you uphold the laws of New York State, the law of the country, the Constitution, and then you can't do that. You can't be giving somebody a free ticket ride out by hiding them from law enforcement. Yeah. And so, hey, I don't know. People are getting so passionate that they're not thinking straight and abusing their position.
Yeah. So we're just about ready to go into the news break, and we'll see you after the break.
The Red Wings are home this weekend to rock the Lilac. Friday features a cooler bag giveaway and fireworks. Saturday has a pint glass giveaway and fireworks. Sunday, kids can run the bases with Spikes and Mitzi. For tickets, visit redwingsbaseball.com.
This is Dom Genova from my friend Jack Greco at Jack Greco Furniture. I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're looking to buy furniture right now. But beyond that, I'd invite you to go see Jack Greco if you're ever going to buy new furniture. And why? You can look and dream and plan how exactly you'd like your furniture. The type of wood, construction is half the fun. It's going to be reflective of your taste, and quite frankly, you'll want to pass it down as an heirloom. Can't say that about the big box stores. Go see Jack. Well, welcome back. We're having a wonderful conversation with Jim VanBrederode, former police officer, police chief, and president of the Monroe County Police Chiefs Association, and former candidate for office, which he has admitted. I'm not doing that again.
Somebody else can try.
How would you do that? I have to tell you, I couldn't survive 5 minutes. I mean, oh my Lord, you got to get 51% of the people voting for you, and I couldn't. I just want to be able to do it. So here's the thing. My philosophy, being a little bit of a marketing guy, is that what we've gotten to be in this country is that there's very little common sense anymore. You get certain groups that you put together. They have very little in common with one another, but you can put them together to get 51%.
Yes.
And so these people don't agree with these people. All they know is they don't like you. You know what I mean? And the thing is that there's such outrage for some things and not others. This poor young woman. Maybe I got her name. I'm not pronouncing her name correctly, but Danilise Pablo Cabero, right? 17 years old. 17 years old, and she's a victim of a gunshot randomly.
Yes.
And my Lord, I mean, where's the marches? Where's the marches and the outrage for things like that?
And that's part of what motivates me. I saw that on TV, and this was all during the same week as Tom Homan came, right? And so we saw 2 nights worth of protests, 200 people shutting down Church Street in front of City Hall, get Tom out of town. And then the next day we had this murder. And it's just like, do you realize that was a 17-year-old child? And when you see the pictures of this beautiful girl at St. Michael's on Clinton Avenue, her church photograph. I mean, this wasn't a drug dealer, right? This was a child who got killed. And I sit home and I watch this. And where are those 200 people that just last night were sitting out in front of City Hall with their signs about the illegal aliens? And now we have a Rochester girl, 17 years old, who just lost her life. And I just can't believe we've become so numb, or we now accept so much collateral damage. It's almost like we just kind of accept, well, that there's going to be shootings in the city. But, it's not just that one, too, right? We had a 9-year-old shot in Henrietta. Where was the outrage over that? It seems like we've become numb to all this. But, boy, illegal immigrants.
Well, they say Rudy Giuliani. Well, Rudy Giuliani, before he lost his mind.
Yeah, he did.
He did a really good job in New York because they started prosecuting broken windows, right?
Sure. Yep.
They started out with the small things, right?
Right.
And now it's you have a Kia and. Yeah, some kid hijacks the Kia and it's sort of like, oh, okay, Johnny, that's fine, and don't worry about it. We know you've had a tough life, and there's no consequences to it, right?
And look, I totally believe in programs. I am not here to. We open up the rock and we throw everybody back in the rock, right? The prison. Okay, no, look, I believe in programs, yeah. but I got to laugh. Okay, I was the chief of police back in 2018 when this raise the age was coming, right? And we listened to all these talks about why this is going to be great, and we're going to have all these services ready. Okay, so don't worry, Chief. When you have the 17-year-old in the stolen Kia, we will have a place to put them, a program to get them in, get them back into school. We will have all this ready for you. Well, then guess what happens, right? There's no money, there's no programs, and so it's Chief. When you catch that kid, you just drive him right back home to that same environment, okay? That got him in trouble tonight, and you just put him back over there. Don't worry about it, and he'll go to court in 2 weeks. And so the state is good at promising stuff, but they never deliver. They never deliver the goods. And you know what? I would have bought into it had any of these resources been given to us. Law enforcement wants resources. We don't want kids to go back out. We don't want them going to Attica, but there's nothing to stop them. We have absolutely very few programs available.
Wow, yeah, the programs. Somebody said on my show a while back, the programs are like fire prevention. You want your school to have fireproof rugs and walls and a proper way of getting in and out of school. Yeah, we got that, okay? But you also need fire engines, okay? Yes. Because the ones that are on fire, you need to put the fire out. So the thing is, you need the enforcement for what's happening now. Now, you built a school years ago, and it had all these flammable materials in it. You can't do anything about it. It's going to take you a while to build a new school, okay? Yes. So it's going to take you a while to make society better that these environments don't happen. But in the meantime, you got to do something with the people that are doing this stuff, and it has to be consequences of their own behavior, right?
Sure. And look, you know what's lacking for most of these kids that we deal with? What? That there's no structure. There's no schedule in place, right? That you're in bed at 9 o'clock. We get up at 7. We make our bed. We eat breakfast, and then we get to school. We do. There's no structure in place. The kids just do whatever they want. And part of the solution is, in fact, they went and closed half the halfway houses and all these other non-secure facilities that we used to have. The Center for Youth, they're all gone, right? So, we don't want to put kids in a home, okay? But you know what? It gave them structure, right? Where they made them go to bed at 9 o'clock. They wake up at 7 o'clock, and then they have class and they have recreation, right? You got to have a structured lifestyle, or kids are going to go out and do what kids do. If there's nobody watching, or there's no structure in place, a schedule, they're going to go out every night. Well,
yeah, and it really boils down to this too: is years ago you had respect for law enforcement. You guys are getting spit on now. I mean, and like I like to say, you're not doing it for the money.
No, and a lot of this lack of respect is because we do look at we have a lot of officials, the mayor getting on TV and criticizing the cops, right? So many public officials now are just criticizing the cops. You see what's going on at some of these ICE facilities. You've got elected officials, trying to overrun these facilities, breaking the law themselves. How does this play out to the young generation who's watching? Oh, it's okay to scream at a policeman in their face, right? Yeah. You or I would never have done that when we were younger. My gosh, you feared the police, right?
Yeah, and the thing is I get it. There's bad everything. There's bad apples, bad cars. There's some bad cops. I got that. Sure. But you can't paint everybody, with the same brush, and you start taking the honor away from the job, and who's going to want to do it.
And look at so let's get back to Tom Homan real quick. That's why he came to town. He came to town not to address Jim VanBrederode, the retired police chief. He didn't come to town to address the media in Rochester. He came to town as the chief law enforcement official at the federal level to come meet with those officers who had their careers thrown under the bus, put on TV, and to tell them, look, you did okay, you did fine, you did what you were supposed to do as a policeman here in the state of New York, right? You took an oath to uphold the law. You came and you backed up my officers. That's what you're supposed to do. This was a sit down with the coach and the players after they just got their butts kicked, okay? To say, look, don't lose hope. You guys did okay. Just because your city mayor and your chief didn't back you up, I'm telling you, as a higher official than they are, that you did everything right, and keep going out there and fighting for all of us, because we need law and order. We need policemen to go to work every day and not be afraid to get out of their car, because that's what's coming. Cops will drive around with their windows up, their doors locked, and you just wait until the radio calls you, and then you go. You do not get out of your car. You are one call away from having your career ruined, all right? If not fired, or you're on national TV. And this happens time and time again here in Rochester and Monroe County.
And we are heading into our last break. Unfortunately, this is a show that should be an hour and a half long, but we will be talking to you, or with you, after this break. This is Dom for my friend John Myers and his new company, Life Interviews. I'm going to ask you to go look at the website he has, Life Interviews. There's no T in it, Interviews, where you'll see a fantastic presentation on what they do. And what they do is create a video legacy for you to pass down to future generations. More than just getting your DNA, you can pass down your story. Go see, you'll be amazed. It's a great idea, but do me a favor. Wait till the end of the No Nonsense Roundtable. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are in our last section of the No Nonsense Roundtable show with a good friend of mine, Jim VanBrederode, former police officer, police chief, president of the Monroe County Sheriff's Association.
Police Chiefs.
Police Chiefs Association. Okay, excuse me for the misdirection there, but that's the Police Chiefs Association. And the fella that used to be called on years ago, every time there was a go-to question, and you would be on TV, Channel 13, 8, whatever. So
transparency. You got to tell the public. There's the story from the politicians, and then there's real life, and that was my job, to be the real life person that tells you how things are really going to function on the street.
Well, you need to interpret these things too. So let's talk about the Holman thing. So Holman comes here, and everybody thinks that it's going to be this big rabble-rousing thing. He's going to come here and he's going to say, "I'm going to arrest the mayor. I'm going to," and from what I heard on TV, especially the fellows, the president,
Jeff Wader.
Yeah, Jeff Wader, the president of the Locust Club there. He says, we respond to other agencies. When an agency asks us to respond, we respond to other agencies. He says that's what he was here for. That's what he talked about. He says that we have your back, just like you said. And it was a much more, I think it was a much more, I use the word, non-confrontational, quiet appearance than people were expecting.
Right. I think people were, and I got to tell you, the protesters were all there to have that counter confrontation.
But he interacted with you guys, not with the public.
Right.
And I think people were expecting him to react with the public.
And this had nothing to do with the public. This was a private meeting, again, like a coach coming to the players, just to have a sit down, a come to Jesus moment about.
But
hey,
it's just an example. It's just an example how preconceptions, start driving the message, right?
Exactly, and it's almost like like we were talking before the show. Everything is doom and gloom right now with the federal government, right? We're going to lose Social Security. Everyone's got their stories how we're going to lose everything, and we're not going to be here in 2 more years. It's like, okay, really?
Well, I had, and we were discussing the gentleman before, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I had somebody on my show who says, the Republicans are going to do away with contraception, all told. What? No. What? No, I don't think. Well, that's what they can do. Will you stop? It's not going to happen. Okay. No. So let's change the subject just a little bit to this. We were talking about different agencies and information you can share and can't share. And I was given education before the show about this thing about these licenses. You got these enhanced licenses and well, go ahead.
So you got to remember the sanctuary city thing. All right? So back in 2018, 2019, you had Governor Cuomo was in charge, and to bolster this whole sanctuary stuff with the illegal aliens, New York wanted to lower their standards on what's required for a driver's license. Okay. As you remember back in the day when we were kids, your driver's license, if you had your driver's license, that was like the MasterCard. It was gold, right? People accepted a driver's license like, yep, if that thing says that's who you are, that's who you are. Okay. So then in 2018, 2019, they passed a green light law here in New York, which they lowered whatever the requirements are to prove who you are. You no longer have to prove that you're here legally. You can be an illegal citizen, illegal immigrant, whatever the word is you want to use. We will give you a driver's license or one of those non-driving IDs. Again, back in the day, that was gold if you had something. So they lowered the standards. And at the federal level, there are requirements for something called a real ID. You can Google that word, real ID. If you want this ID to stand up at the federal level, you have to, that had to have been issued based on these requirements, right? And I don't know what the requirements are. XYZ, birth certificate, whatever. That makes it a real ID. Otherwise, your ID is not considered reliable. And especially after 9/11, right?
Right.
We're very careful about IDs and those getting in the wrong hands. Okay, so we have the Green Light Act. I'm the chief of police. I get a letter one day. I'm sitting at my desk, and it's from Governor Cuomo, and he's telling me, as the chief of police of the town of Gates, as all the chiefs got, under this new Green Light law, your agency is not to share any data from our New York State Department of Motor Vehicles records. Okay, so every police car's got a computer in there. I can access the DMV records, right? I go to a car accident. I got to run your license plate. I got to run your driver's license to make sure everything's good. That's how we get the information to fill out the report. Those computers are very important. That data is owned by the state of New York. So to stick it to the feds, our state said to the police departments, you are not to run anything through our computers for another federal agency. So a Border Patrol guy pulled up to me and said, Jim, can you run this license plate for me? I got to tell him, sorry, I can't do that for you. I cannot share that information. Now, this is after 9/11, okay, where they identified problems within law enforcement, not sharing information, okay? And now, this is 2019. We have our governor, because of this sanctuary thing that they came up with, this whole sanctuary thing, they're now ordering law enforcement, you have to sign this memorandum of understanding that you are not to share this data with anybody from Border Patrol or ICE or any of those immigration or those services, or we're going to take away your computers if you don't sign this.
It's hindering investigations. I mean, obvious.
Right. They're making it very difficult for Border Patrol, ICE, those federal agencies to access any data that might have somebody's address or stuff like that. And so now here we are in 2025, okay, where the federal government says, hey, in order to board an airplane, you have to have a real ID, an ID that meets these federal standards. So now you and I and all our families, we're all having to run the DMV to pay to get an enhanced driver's license or to get I don't know, a star put on your license, right? But this all costs money, right? And it's costing you and I time. I don't know if you've been by a DMV office lately. And in the past 3 weeks, the lines have been out the door as people frantically get down there to meet the deadline so you can get on a common carrier airplane here in America. But you can thank your governor. You can thank 2019, Governor Cuomo, when they decided to lower the standards for a New York State license, which is now absolutely useless as far as proving who that person is. Just because they got a license with that name on it, you can't trust the validity of that document. And that's what they did here in the state of New York to cater to the sanctuary city, the sanctuary state. And again, it's not a legally defined term. It's just them making policies. But it obstructs law enforcement. And that's not right. We all work together here in Monroe County. I was at an event last night, and all the local police departments were there, and Border Patrol was there, ICE was there at this event. That's how we operate. Right. We're one team. We don't operate in silos. If you want true public safety, we all share information. We all work together. We all help each other. That is how we get the job done, and we keep the community safe.
And you're never running for office again?
Never. I did the math, okay? I did the math.
Well, you heard it here first. We haven't had, I tell you, 350 shows. I don't think I've had any big announcement that would rival this. I'm not running.
But you know, but here's a funny thing, right? Because I'm very, as you know, I like to be I like to be very outspoken still because I see what's going on. And I'm like, you know what? That's not right. No, but now I got all the hecklers telling me you're just doing this for political reasons. I was like, I have no more, and I have no interest in trying to run for office. Trust me, I am not doing this for any political gain. I am just here to sound the alarm because nobody wants to speak. Nobody wants to be excommunicated, dismissed, lose funding. Nobody will say a word. And you watch what goes on and you say, I can't believe this.
No, I've learned something over these 350 shows, and that is if you don't care if anybody likes you,
right.
you can say an awful lot of things, but if you have to sell something, that's a different.
You gotta walk the line.
You gotta walk the line a little bit more. Yeah. So Jim, it's delightful to have you here again, and you're a great guy. You are community minded. Your heart, I've always felt, is in the right place. And thank you for sharing some of your life with me here. And no more political contributions for Jimmy.
Thank you.
Okay. Next week, same time, same place. It's the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.